Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Amelia Kinkade, and she played Angela Franklin in Night of the Demons 1, 2, and 3. Hey, Amelia, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Scotty, thank you so much for saying 2 and 3.
Yes,
a lot of people have
absolutely.
only seen 1. A lot of people aren't even aware that there was a 3. But
Yes.
in 2, I turn into a 30-foot snake, which was 27 and a half hours in special effects makeup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I probably will always hold the world's record because this was in the day where CGI didn't exist.
Yeah.
In the first film, they set my fingers on fire. And in the second film, when I'm strapped in a trench, glued to a teeter-totter, 2 contacts in each eye, I had a ice chest filled with pineapple tongues of all different lengths, cherry blood, and I'd been tortured in special effects makeup until I looked like Kermit the Frog for about 8 or 9 hours. Then at the end of it, Brian Trenchard Smith, who's an absolute genius, genius, and my all-time favorite director, comes up to me and he says, "Okay, darling, now in this episode or in this scene, you're going to throw a fireball." And I said, "Oh, you're going to set my fingers on fire?" And he said, "No, we do it in post." And I said, "What? It's post. It's CGI." I said, "What's CGI?" So what we did, I mean, unless someone goes out of their way to do an entire movie of practical effects, it's never going to happen again. I'm going to hold that record forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope I do. I hope no other actress ever gets tortured like that. Unless, of course, it's me. That would be the only exception if it's me.
Absolutely. So backtracking to your start, how did you get your start into acting?
Well, I had come to Hollywood to spend the summer with my very famous and wonderful Aunt Rue. So I just did the first Golden Girls convention in America. And my 82-year-old mother and I were 2 of the guests of honor. So she smashed it. She raised the roof, showing baby
That's
pictures.
awesome.
But against her will, I came to Los Angeles one summer to spend the summer with my aunt.
Oh, wow.
Now, at that time, I had graduated from Interlochen Arts Academy in Michigan, and I was a dance major. Okay. And that was something that my mother was behind. She actually had encouraged that. So Interlochen we had kids from all 50 states and over 50 countries. It's the best high school of performing arts for music in the world.
Yeah.
And the dance program was second to none. So I was trained as a modern and ballet dancer. I came to Hollywood not to make rock videos and horror movies, but to actually be in a modern dance company. Nice. And it was my Aunt Rue of Golden Girls fame, Blanche, who said, "May, you're going to be an actress." And I said, "Rue, I don't want to be an actress." "You're going to be an actress. You're not going to be a chorus girl." So she kind of pushed me into it. And the first job I got was Sexy and 17 with the Stray Cats.
Okay.
That entire thing was an act of God. It was an act of God.
Nice.
There was a little paper that used to come out called Drama Log. And in Drama Log, they list all the auditions, back before dancers had agents. I took a cab. All right, this is pre-Uber. I took a taxi in the rain to an audition at Debbie Reynolds' studio. Okay. There were over 100 dancers and they wanted 1. Wow. And up until that time, my favorite band in the whole world And I'm gonna give a little lesson here on visualizing and bringing things into manifestation through joy and excitement. Every single night, I'd pretend I was on MTV and leave a rock video. My favorite band was the Stray Cats. And that was my fantasy.
Okay.
And first of all, they came to my hometown in Oklahoma. I was in college in Oklahoma at the time.
Okay.
I ended up in an elevator with Brian Setzer. This was in March before I came out for the summer. And that was the first miracle. He turned to me and said, "Where do you girls go to party?" And my friend and I named some club in Oklahoma City because we didn't know anything. We thought, oh, I'll never go. We got in the car, drove all the way home to Norman. We thought he's not going to go. It was in the paper the next day that he went.
Right.
So go forward a few months. Here's an audition. I don't know what the band is. I don't know what they're looking for. I had a crew cut that looked a lot like the boys in the band. I go to this audition. They narrow it down to 5. The other 4 girls were superstar dancers, superstars. Who, you know, one of them had done the, it was right after Flashdance.
Okay.
So the girl who did the dance doubling in Flashdance was one of the best dancers on earth. So it was in that era. And they narrowed it down to 5. They narrowed it down to 1. I was standing in my Aunt Ruth's kitchen. I got the call and he said, "You've got the part." I said, "Who's the band?" He said, "It's the Stray Cats." I had grown up in Louisiana and Texas, primarily Louisiana. So we're flying you back to Louisiana. So you got to be kidding me. They're flying me to New Orleans. It's my first job.
Wow.
And the video became such a controversy because it was sexy in 17, not 19. I was underage. Back in that time, it was very controversial. They put it on all these talk shows. We got the cover of Life magazine. And not too long after that, now it was the writer, Joe Augustin of Night of the Demons. He had written Night of the Demons. He had seen that rock video.
Okay.
And he called me in and he said, "I want that girl."
Nice. Nice.
I wasn't the strongest actress in the world, and I never will be. When I looked at the script, I thought, oh, I don't want to do this. And my Aunt Ruth said, "It's lead in a movie and you're doing it."
Nice.
It's villain, best part. So when I got the role, I said, "I will take this role in one condition. You let me choreograph it."
Wow.
And by then I'd done a lot of, it was the era of being a backup dancer for Smokey Robinson and Sheena Easton and Donna Summer's comeback tour. She used to fly me around in a helicopter. Cher, Lionel Richie, Yarborough and Peoples. I mean, and then all these dance movies were coming out. And in that world, you didn't get to star in the movie unless you were, Patrick Swayze was one of the only ones who could act and dance.
Yeah.
Everybody else had dance doubles.
Yeah.
And the dance double for Kevin Bacon was my partner the first time I did a Mama's Family. Is one of the best dancers in the world.
Right.
So I said, "Let me do whatever I want and I'll take the role." And I think even now, the way everything's so flash cut, you would never see a dance that length in a horror movie.
Right.
They didn't cut it up. They didn't, and they didn't censor me at all. I said, "Grab a handheld, get it on the first take because I can't guarantee it's going to happen again." And it was an expression of all the pent up frustration that I'd had as a dancer because I wanted to be this concert, modern and ballet dancer. And I didn't get to do that. I had to do these little teeny tiny bits on commercials and in dance movies. And so they let me do what I wanted to do. And that was Kevin Tenney's brilliance that he
Yeah.
allowed it to happen.
Mhm.
Because if there was one thing that would have gotten cut out of Demons 1, it would have been that dance.
Mhm.
And I, not to toot my own horn, but it's the thing that everybody talks about. It's what I hear about the most.
Yeah.
It's the images that show up on T-shirts and tattoos. It's always about the dance.
Yep. Yep. So out of the 3 that you did, which one do you like the best personally?
I'll get in terrible trouble for playing favorites with the different directors, and there
Yeah.
are different elements that I like about all of them.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I'm the most proud of is Demons 2.
Okay.
And it's because of that snake scene.
Yeah.
And it was another dance where they said, great, do whatever you want.
Right.
And he let me jump on the table and go crazy and improvise and kick everything off. And that was sort of a takeoff on an old movie called Hair,
Mm-hmm.
where a hippie's at a garden party in New England.
Mm-hmm.
And he jumps up on this table and he just kicks everything off. He destroys everything. He makes this huge scene.
Mm-hmm.
But in Demons 1, it was my first encounter with special effects makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, Steve Johnson was literally the best in the world. He was this boy wonder. He had just won an Oscar for Ghostbusters. We had less than no money. And some of the most iconic scenes were done on roller skates. Or with Steve putting tubes through my dress's sleeves and standing off camera and smoking cigarettes and blowing the smoke into the tube. I'm blowing Steve's cigarette smoke out of my hands. It was fun because we had no money.
Right. Yeah.
There had to be this huge amount of creativity.
Yeah.
And intelligence to make things work.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a backyard, make your own movie in high school kind of thing.
Yeah.
Except it was done masterfully, and every single person gave it their all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also had on the show Kathy Podwell and Alvin, and they both had nothing but amazing things to say about this movie. And the big thing they liked about it was the no budget. Because it really it just worked. It worked. That's the thing.
It did. It did. And it wasn't, and I've never made some massive, high budget movie. I'm not Julia Roberts. I don't know what that's like. But what I've heard is that it's miserable because they're under so much pressure.
Yeah.
And every move, everything they do is completely controlled. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to improvise. They're not allowed to have fun. We didn't have any money. We thought no one's ever going to see this. No one is ever going to see this. Let's just go crazy.
Yeah. Have fun.
We end up with a man's Chinese red carpet release. It's ridiculous. It's nuts. And now, 30 years later, every other fan has a tattoo of me on his body. They'll be standing in line, come up to me, shaking, burst into tears. These are big guys, big burly guys. And they'll start crying and they'll say, "You've been scaring the hell out of me my whole life." And they start crying. And they say, "I've got a tattoo of you on my chest." And off the shirt comes and there's the tag. And I'll tell you what's funny, what I found out recently. I have an enormous, and I'm very proud to say this, not only a gay following doing the drag costumes of and of Suzanne, Linnea, who is brilliant. She's brilliant. She's terrifying in this. But also my Hispanic following, they've been telling me that their mothers use horror movies to scare their kids. So when I was doing all these autograph signings in Texas, and the guys would say that their mother would say, Angela's gonna get you. Angela's gonna get you. If you don't brush your teeth, Angela's in the house. And they would run screaming. And two of these guys are actually, I did a podcast for them outside of Las Vegas. And we became such good friends. I went to Vegas to stay in their house.
That's awesome.
I'm at the table with their mother and her husband and their wives. And I said, how do you like that? After all this time of saying, Angela's in the house, I'm in your house.
That's awesome.
You manifested me. Is that how? And what's cool is that I'm not at that nosebleed fame level. And a lot of my fans and I become friends.
Yeah.
That's how I've made some of my best friends that were in the line to meet me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't be surprised when I come knocking on your door.
Hey, I would love that.
Yeah, but guess true.
Yeah, I'm a good cook, so I'll make dinner. We'll watch a couple of movies, and I have a popcorn maker, a hot dog maker, a cotton candy maker, a snow cone machine.
Who's got a cotton candy maker in their house?
Yep, I have a whole cinema out there.
That's wild.
I have a surround sound.
Parties for us. My gosh.
Exactly, right?
I don't have my cast now. We should just go over and have a Demon's Night at Scotty's.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome. Absolutely. So regarding Angela, what do you think was the hardest thing bringing her to life?
That's a good question. I thought I'd been asked everything.
You never were asked that one. Interesting.
Well, I will go back to the spiritual belief system that I have. And I was tiptoeing around in this old and extremely haunted house. It really was a haunted house. And we're doing things that really do conjure demons. And I had to be careful that I could act that out in a way that was believable and powerful. Now, in some traditions, even though it's considered by some Christians to be devil worshiping, which it isn't. In some of the matriarchal religions of the old ideas of voodoo or the shamanic practices in Africa, because I've been to Africa 19 years in a row. That's where I have my charity with the kids and the animals. It's where I lead my safaris. The voodoo priestess who gets possessed by the Holy Spirit. Now, it's not the devil. She gets possessed by the Holy Spirit, which is no different than speaking in tongues in the Christian world. And it brings healing to the crowd of people. It brings healing to the community. It brings abundance to the community. So she's downloading some power. Now, let's say that the power is coming from a jaguar. Or I'm going to connect to a snake. I'm going to connect to something that they're all God's creatures. They're all life-giving. But for me to be able to do that and still do it in a way that I felt safe, because everyone's always said to me, oh, the house was haunted. What did you see? What did you hear in the real whole house? I've never told this to anybody, Scotty. I'm going to tell to you.
Okay.
One night, something followed me home. And it was very, very evil and scary.
Wow.
Because what I'm doing is conjuring evil.
Yeah.
And I had to do that and protect myself at the same time. And the value of that now, because if I have fans that are devil worshipers, unfriend. I'm not for you. This is not your place. I do not come to me with that nonsense.
Right.
We're in a place in this life on this earth where you better believe in some sort of higher power, whether you call it God, goddess, universal intelligence, Christ consciousness, you better have an anchor.
Right.
What's happening right now, people don't have an anchor.
Yep.
And they're getting blown around every which way. The fear and chaos and the anxiety, it's completely and totally overwhelming.
Yeah.
And we have to know that we're connected to the spirit of joy, light, peace, harmony, faith, love, compassion, service. The earth, the planet, animals, protecting this angelic kingdom, which is the kingdom of the animals.
Yeah.
This was the Garden of Eden, and it should be, and it should have always been. So I feel like it's not that I'm being a devil worshiper, but I'm pointing out that these forces are real.
Yeah.
The demonic forces are real.
Yep.
And even in the Bible, Christ cast out demons. Now, they wouldn't be in the Bible if it weren't real.
Exactly.
And so what I did was real. And I think that's what people resonate with.
Yeah.
When I started that crazy shape-shifting dance, I thought the fire, those flames were jumping. Special effects, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes.
And it's something that I still deal with fans, that I'm not the representation of evil.
Yeah.
And actually, even in the movie, I'm the character that's saying we shouldn't be doing this. Angela's the one saying, wait a minute, this house is not haunted, this house is possessed. This is what possessed means. This is why we shouldn't be doing this. This is why it's dangerous. And then as an example, I'm the one who gets it.
Right.
Linnea gets it first, and then I get it. But to their credit, good wins out over evil.
Yeah. It really does.
Because Judy and Roger get away.
Yeah.
And they're representing goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is, in its own strange way, kind of a moral fairy tale.
Yeah.
Night of the Demons is very much almost like a grim fairy tale.
Absolutely. It really is. So how do you believe Angela changed between all three films as they went on? Like, how does she change between part 1 into part 2 into part 3?
Well, I was getting a little bit, I mean, with every new movie, I was a little bit older. So it's kind of like watching Harry Potter age.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be doing in the later movies what he was doing in the earlier movies, because he's not that age anymore. He's not a little kid.
Right. Yeah.
The purple spiked punk rock hair and the torn up dress. And this was also, some people complain about it, and I was completely on board with it. I don't remember if it was exclusively my idea, but I wanted a more glamorous old Hollywood kind of image.
Okay.
And that's what we did as the movies went on. So even in the second one, I'm in a much more sophisticated gown. I've got these ringlets. Those were really my hair. And she became more of an evil queen.
Right.
Instead of a high school punk rock kid.
Right.
And I feel like that was, of course, the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah.
With that character. And as the movies went along, because I was the only character brought back for part 2 and then brought back for part 3, it was my franchise, and it felt a little bit more more aristocratic.
Right.
That I could be the queen of eternity and of this house. And it made more sense. I wasn't stumbling into it by accident. It wasn't a joke anymore. Now I was the queen of this realm.
Right. That makes sense. So, the last question I do got for you, is all about you. Do you have anything you would like to promote? Promote your books. I know you have about 6 books out where they could be bought and what they're about, and anything at all that you would like to plug for the listening and viewing audience.
Well, we're doing a few horror conventions.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice to get to do these things after COVID. We're just in happy tears. There's so much gratitude. It's phenomenal. And the next one that I'm going to do is Carolina Fear Fest. That's
Okay.
the end of May in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Absolutely. I
And
know the promoter of that, Matt
I
Burns.
hope are you coming?
I'm not coming, but I know Matt. I'm really good friends with Matt Burns. Yep.
And why are you not coming?
When is the date again? I'm far from North Carolina, but when is the date again?
You're not that far from North Carolina. You're on that same coast. All you have to do is drop straight down. It's May 27th.
May 27th.
Yeah.
I'll be coming back from the beach that week, actually, too.
It would be great if you came.
I would love to come though, but I am going to Monster Mania in Hunt Valley, Maryland. I would love to see you at a Monster Mania.
The problem with all of these things is that you have to be invited. I don't get to pick and choose. I don't get to say, oh, I'm going to do this convention. The promoter has to get in touch with me and invite me.
Yeah.
I would love to do it, but I haven't been invited to it. So then the end of June, there's one in Calgary, Canada.
Okay.
It looks like that's going to be a big one.
Nice.
When I get back from Europe, so I'll go to, we're waiting to hear about the London Comic-Con, not sure yet. Okay. And then when I get back from Europe, after I've been teaching animal communication in the UK, first live workshop in 2 years, 3 years. Then the next one is in Minnesota in September. So that's a Crypticon. Okay. People can find my events on my website, which is just my name. It's ameliakinkade.com, 2 Ks.
Okay.
The book page on Amazon, if you put in Amelia Kinkade books, you're going to see the 6 books. It's also, they're multiple languages. So the first one's in over 40 languages now.
Oh, nice.
And the charity that I am running is also up on my website. It's called Archangel. And I go into schools and churches in Africa, rural communities, and we dance as elephants, we draw elephants, we make up theater about protecting the animals as opposed to letting them get poached, and teaching the kids that that's their long-term financial future, that the only security they're ever going to have is protecting these animals on a safari park. So I work with the lions, and in Rwanda, the gorilla, taking people to the gorilla. South Africa with lions, the biggest tiger sanctuary is there. I work with great white sharks, penguins. The last time I went to Zimbabwe and did a protection campaign for pangolin, which are a little kind of anteater that are one of the number 1 on the endangered species list, most illegally trafficked animal in the world.
Oh, I love animals.
Well, you got to come to Africa.
Geez, you're trying to get me to North Carolina. Now you're getting me to come to Africa. I would love to go, though. I would love to see those animals, like so amazing exotic creatures, beautiful animals. Oh, that would be beautiful.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And they respond to love.
Yeah.
Not somebody trying to take their picture, wanting something from them, talking about them as if they don't understand you. They deserve our love and respect. I'm an elephant lover. I like big cats. So the leopards, the lions, the cheetah, those
are they all like trained? Or are they friendly?
Oh gosh, no. They are wild.
Okay.
All right, they're wild.
Wow.
And they're not totally safe. If they take one step outside of that park, they can get their heads chopped off in a can hunt.
Wow.
So that's why I'm always in the middle of this conflict of trying to keep the elephants from getting poached, trying to keep the lions from getting their heads, cut off and hung over somebody's pool table in Texas.
Wow.
$500,000, you can murder your very own lion. Well, those lions are my family. Those lions are my
Yeah.
best friends. I will now
Yeah.
be into the third generation of those lions. So I'm meeting their grandbabies, their nieces and nephews. They follow me around. They bring me their babies. The elephants are going to be waiting around my tent before I land. 5 elephants know where I'm going before the plane
Right.
lands. So they're completely wild. And when they're approached with the kind of love and reverence and respect that they deserve,
Yeah.
they can just come right up to you. Or they
Oh.
do to me. They don't to everybody else, but they do to my students, whoever I take. And I train my students. We're in a kind of meditative trance where we're in touch with the spirit within that animal, the grace, the love, the gratitude, the joy, the awe. I'm the translator between the species. So they tell me what they need, if they're hurting, what their behavior problems are, what their health problems are, any conflict that they're having with the people. I'm the one that they talk to. And I teach everyone how to do this because we all innately have the hardware in our bodies. We all have intuition. We all have supernatural powers. We've just taught that we are not supposed to use them.
Right.
So we don't know how to tap them. And I teach people how to tap them and feel safe and comfortable with that part of yourself.
Absolutely.
And integrate it so that you've got an analytical mind, you've got a creative mind, and a listening device is listening. The other part of the brain is making sense of it. And that's the way we're intended to operate.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to go through life just sending out thought and emotion. We're supposed to be able to take it in and listen. And also for your own safety. I mean, in these times, your intuition tells you, oh, that car's going to cut me off and not signal. And then what happens? They cut you off. And you go, I knew that was going to happen. Or you shouldn't take that road to work, or you shouldn't invest in that stock, or you should. And it's always hindsight. In 2020, people say, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Then why didn't you listen?
You know what? A good movie, I should say franchise that experiences that exact thing, Final Destination.
Really?
You ever see Final Destination?
No, I didn't.
So basically the killer or the villain of that movie is death itself. So the first movie is about airplanes. The guy has a premonition that the airplane's gonna explode in the sky. So he gets all of his classmates off and they reluctantly listen. And then what happens? The airplane crashes. Now everybody that was on that airplane, that the order that they were supposed to die, now death stalks them in creative ways to kill them, whether like they fall in the bathtub or whatever. And then the second one, you know, when you're driving on a highway and there's like a big truck with those logs that are taped in the back, a big highway pileup because of that log, and they have the intuition. And then the third one is about roller coasters. The fourth one, I believe, is about I want to say is about like a race car, like a demolition derby. And then the fifth one is about being over a bridge and the bridge collapses or whatever when they're over stuck on the bridge. So they're very scary movies, but they're based on this main person, this main character as that vision that something's gonna happen, and then they bring back into reality, and then they basically tell everybody to come on, listen to me. We have to get off this bridge, or we have to get off this roller coaster. And then they listen, and then all the people that didn't listen end up dying in that accident. And then death eventually stalks all of them until it goes back to the original form, and then it's gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's real life right now.
Yeah.
We have to constantly use discernment.
Yeah.
Should I be in public? Should I go on that public bus? Should I do this? Should I get that? Should I not get it? I mean, so, and it's constant. And I'm also having to make those decisions.
Right.
Because I want to be able to get into England and do this con. I want to be able to get to Africa desperately.
Yeah.
But we have to constantly check, is it safe? And right now what's happening is things are changing like lightning from one day to the next.
Yeah.
And we have
Yep.
to be in touch with that part of ourselves at all times.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's no different from having the other five senses. You can see, you
Yep.
can taste, you can hear, you can touch,
Yep.
you can intuit. And it's the
Right.
most important of all of our senses,
Right.
because if you don't listen to it, you could die. Or
Yeah.
you at least get yourself and the people you love in a lot of trouble.
Yep.
And what I teach is how to use it to understand what's going on with your animals, because
Yeah.
they don't speak your language. How are they going to
Right.
tell you?
Yeah.
A lot of my students are doctors and vets. My students
Mhm.
have been from astronauts to physicists to
Yeah.
the richest man in the world and the ones who own the top Olympic show horses and Queen of
Yeah.
England.
Yeah.
And at that level, they know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. They wouldn't
Yeah.
have gotten to that level if they didn't know
Absolutely.
how to listen to these instincts and trust that
Yep.
that little voice inside of you
Yep.
that's guiding you. We all
Right.
have an internal GPS.
Yeah. So maybe the sixth sense was right. There is a sixth sense. There's not just five. And that sixth one might be intuition. You know,
Exactly.
yeah, I agree completely, because there's times that I'm thinking, should I do this? Should I not do this? Like one time I was going to meet up. I met somebody online. This is years ago. I never told the story before, but this is years ago. I was going to meet up with somebody. Never met them before, met them online. I was going to go meet up with them. Well, the next morning I decided not to go. And the next morning I ended up reading on, I had the news on, the morning news on, and they were arrested for murder. And I was like, I could have been that one that was murdered. And then there was another story I never told before. I met up with somebody, never knew them a day in my life, and we hung out, and we were gonna probably, I don't want to say it, but like hook up or whatever. But my dad ended up, following me because he didn't believe my excuse on where I was going. Because I was like maybe 20 or something. He didn't believe my excuse where I was going, and he followed me and he brought me home. Well, I found out, I hopped on Facebook or whatever it was the next day, and found all these RIPs to him. He overdosed, and he could have, who knows what he would have given me. So there's two times that my intuition, or my dad's intuition, saved me. Yeah.
Your father knew how to use it.
Yeah. He was a very smart and wise man.
We
My
can,
dad always told, like, there was this like controversial thing that happens, like, in the world or whatever. And like sometimes people, like, the reason why people trust me is because my character is who I am, and I'm very prominent in the indie film community because they know who I am. They know, like, my character. My dad was a very wise man. He once said to me, Scotty, it doesn't matter what happens or whatever. If your character shows that you're a reliable, trustworthy person, people will stand by you. And he's always right, because every time something were to happen, like you get bad people out there, like if they, whether they defame you or whether they start rumors about you or whatever the issue may be in the world, like the people that know your true character will stand by you, because they'll know that they're just that, rumors.
that's incredible. I
Yeah.
had to use it with you
Yeah.
because I get invited to so many podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tune into you and say, okay,
Yeah.
Slasher Scotty, you could be some psycho devil worshiping stalker. But I felt your soul. I felt your
Yeah.
heart. And I
Thank
went,
you.
oh no, this was going to be great. I like
Yeah,
him.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. And we mentioned before, and I'm sure he'll be listening to it, but I'm gonna tell Greg Gilbert when we get off with you to reach back out to you, because you said you would be happy to do it, because I referred him to you. And I'll let him know to reach out to you, because he is a great guy, and I know that he would do you justice. He would give you a really amazing interview. And I don't steer people wrong. Like I wouldn't do that. And I think that it's great that that your story gets out, especially about the animals, because like they don't have a voice. So we need advocates like yourself to be their voice and advocate for them.
Well, thank you. One of
Of course.
my favorite analogies here with my second book was co-written by I've got my astronaut behind me, Captain Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo astronaut, and it's on quantum theory. It's more for doctors, it's for naysayers and skeptics to try to show that there is scientific validity to this. But he was the one who told me it's not a sixth sense. There's nothing paranormal about this. It's the first sense. When every baby is born, you know that baby is thinking and feeling, and that baby can't use words yet to express what they're going through. And the babies have to constantly be aware of what the parents want and what's happening around them, because it's a survival skill. They got to stay alive. And in anthropology, before there was a written language or before mathematics is introduced to an indigenous tribe, the telepath. And as soon as they start learning the written language and math, and they start adding and judging and slicing and dicing and calculating, which is another part of the brain, the intuitive side shuts down. And it may be, it's connected to the pineal gland in the brain, and it starts to atrophy about the age of 7 in most people. And in our world, that's in our development, it's when a child learns how to read and write, they put aside that part of you that was innately connected to other people, telepathically, with energy, knowing what is this person feeling, and also we get ashamed out of us. Every child went up to their parents and said, "Mommy, why are you crying?" And she's, "I'm not crying. Oh, why are you fighting with Dad? We're not fighting." So we get our instincts violated. And we learn early on, if I'm going to survive in this world, I got to shut that down. Every child comes in wishing they could talk to animals. If not really doing it. And every child comes in being able to see your grandfather who passed away, or hear your dad who passed away. Talk to the family dog. They're seeing all sorts of things. They have all this perception. They have precog. They're dreaming things that are going on in other parts of the world. And we're taught, don't let anybody know you can do that.
My dad, when he passed away, people can't just say like animals don't know what happened, because I saw my dog, and my dog was lost. He knew there was something wrong, and he knew that there was something happened to my dad, because he would lay in the bed where my dad would always lay for days, weeks. He knew. He really knew.
They grieve.
So animals grieve. Animals do grieve. Like they aren't humans, and they can't speak like humans, but they're smarter than most people on this planet alive.
That's for sure.
They really are.
The scope of emotion, I don't feel is beneath us in any way. I think it's above us.
I agree.
Dogs love more deeply than human beings do.
Oh yeah.
Horses are more devoted to you and each other.
Right.
Cats are more connected to God, and they can channel all sorts of healing energies and wisdom. These animals give comfort and devotion and friendship with no condition. And they do it every single day of their lives. And they are far, far superior in a lot of their senses. So with dogs, I did 2 BBC television shows, and I with 2 different scientists, and they both confirm this fact. If a human being's nasal passages were unraveled, they'd be the size of a postage stamp. If dogs' nasal passages were unraveled, they'd be the size of a football field.
Really?
So they can literally smell cancer.
Wow, that's insane.
It smells bad. They can literally smell fear. They can literally smell danger.
Wow.
they're going to know that guy walking down your street has a gun in his pocket and he smells like whiskey and he's high on, they're going to know everything.
Right.
And then if you hear this, and everybody listening to this, once you start becoming aware of this, they're doing it in the neighborhood right now. There's a 5 o'clock patrol. And I've seen this in more places from here to Cape Town, South Africa. They had it in the movie 101 Dalmatians, where the dogs are saying, 5 o'clock and all's well. And the next house over, 5 o'clock and all's well. 5 o'clock and all's well. It rolls. Right now, they're doing the news. I'm hearing him barking. Now, one is passing information to the next one. And the dogs are our police.
Yeah.
And they're is rolling all the way through the neighborhood.
Right.
Is everything okay at your house? We're okay. Are you okay? And they are able to communicate in ways that they're simply not speaking human languages. It doesn't mean they're not speaking languages.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that they can't all communicate with each other. How do those elephants know where I'm going to be before my plane lands?
Right.
How do they have a coordinated effort where they all say, Amelia's going to be in tent, and I've done it. I'm going to be in tent number 5 at 5 a.m. I'm miles away. And I said, if you can hear me, walk down there and meet me at 5 a.m. when I wake up. It was 4:57, and I hear this. And they're actually, elephants are not loud. Elephants are silent. They have toes. They're very graceful in the wild.
Yeah.
And come in and they surround the tent and they're waiting for me to wake up. I unzip the tent and here she is, the nose. And she pushes, and we're not allowed to touch them, and you're not supposed to do this. She pushes a newborn calf into my lap.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. I always joked around with my dad. I would always say, like, because with our dog, he's a little cockapoo. So he's like very tiny, and every time he hears a noise or somebody's walking by or on a bicycle or whatever, he's barking and barking, acting all tough. But when somebody comes in the house, he runs around, tail between his legs, peeing on the floor, scared. Told my dad, I said, this dog's gonna be alerting people that somebody lives here, and and then when the real danger's here, instead of protecting us, he's running away. My dad's like, but he's warning us with his barking that something's happening, somebody's coming. I'm like, yeah, but he's not protecting us.
Well, in a way, I mean, I'm not calling you a coward because you have a very courageous job.
Yep.
But in a way, he's mirroring you.
Yeah.
Because his job is to coordinate safety out there.
Yeah.
You can go hide in your theater tonight and eat cotton candy.
Yep.
They're not on the front lines in Iraq.
Right. Yeah.
They wouldn't be safe if it weren't for you.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's a better thing that he feels safe in his own home. Like, I did my job.
Yep.
I'm not going to be rude and go attack that person who's your friend and walk in the door.
I never even thought of it that way. That's actually really amazing. It's really amazing. Animals are they're just smart.
He probably has a lot more in common with your personality than you're realizing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I remember, like, because we got him when we had our chocolate lab, and that was my dog. Like that, I got him for my 8th birthday, and I got home from school. My parents told me to sit down, put your arms out, close your eyes, and they put the chocolate lab in my lap, and it was like my birthday gift. And when I worked as a supervisor at Kmart back then when he was older, like a lot older, and he was like 14 years old, and every time I would end up coming home, he would greet me at the door, and the one time he didn't, he was gone. Like, I knew something was wrong because he never greeted me. So but we got Reggie, who's our cockapoo, to be with Coco, because it strengthened his heart, and it strengthened his love and his play in that. So, like a brother, so that's what we did. And I remember the first time I saw Reggie, I was in college, my first college, when I was going for my associate's degree. And I ended up I was living in my own apartment and everything, and and they had and my mom and dad came to visit me, and my mom was the first. My dad usually is there first, but this time my mom was in front of my dad, and my mom had her jacket on, and I look and like the dog is literally in her jacket with his head sticking out like as a surprise, like look what we got. And I'm like, oh my god, he's so cute. Well, that dog ended up giving me a very lousy first impression. He came into my house, he sniffed around, and then he left a big poop on my floor. I always say that to my dog, like, Reggie, you remember when you pooped on my floor?
Yeah. That was just a way of saying, I smell everybody else who's ever been here, and this is mine now.
Yep,
It's my
absolutely,
house now.
absolutely. And he is
I
an
didn't have a
amazing dog.
designated bathroom for him, so he picked
Right.
out a room and he made it. He said, this is going to be the bathroom.
Yep, absolutely. And my mom because my mom asked, because she's coming up to visit probably for Mother's Day, and she asked me if I can bring if she could bring the dog up, because I live in a complex, and I know to have animals here you got to pay like $200 a year plus $50 every month or whatever it is for damages and all that stuff, whatever were to happen. But I said I could find out from my landlady, but if you're just visiting, I don't see there being an issue, because you're allowed animals in the complex. I just can't have one living here with me. I wouldn't see there being an issue. So she might be bringing the dog up. Now she won't bring the cat up, because the cat sometimes gets out if you don't look. And I mean, where my parents live, like where my mom is in, it's like all countryside, the sticks type of stuff, where the cat stays in one general area and eventually comes back to the house. Where if she gets loose in Baltimore, good luck coming back. But I mean, cats are smart, so I can believe she'll find her way back. But I don't trust other people, trying to cat snap,
Yeah,
cat napper, So yeah.
probably wise.
Yeah, so but my mom was thinking about bringing the dog up, and I would love her to do that, because Reggie was never in my apartment before, so I would love him to actually come here, and I would love to see him, because I don't go home as much with gas prices being expensive as they are, and it's a 3-hour drive one way, so it's like it's a lot on gas, and and Pennsylvania is like almost $5 a gallon, whereas in Maryland it's like $4.15 a gallon. So my
Yeah.
mom rather come here so she can fill up here because it's cheaper.
It's madness. I'm in
Yeah.
New Mexico and it's almost 5 here too.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yep. All right. Well, I thank you so much, Amelia, for joining me tonight. I had a great time chatting with you. I most likely won't get the interview up until tomorrow morning. Probably be getting ready for bed. I have to be up at 4:30 to do the work thing.
Wow. Well, tell
Yep.
folks here. So any listeners, if
Hmm.
you go to ameliakinkade.com, I'm midway, just started a new webinar, and
Hmm.
you can jump in on it. And I'm teaching, how do you understand what your animals are thinking? What do they need? What do they want? What are they feeling? Are they in
Awesome.
pain? Are they grieving? And then on my store page, there are a lot of cheap little videos, meditations, lessons. The event page has the events coming up.
Nice.
The books are on Amazon, online training of all different sorts. You can listen at your own leisure for the 52 lessons. And the charities listed there, and the books are on Amazon.
Awesome.
So, and then there's a whole new Angela's Party page, and I'm
Awesome.
putting up the tattoos. So if anybody out there has a tat of me on their body, get in touch with me and let
Nice.
me get pictures, because I'm going to
Awesome.
put you on my site.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So that is AmeliaKinkade.com, Kinkade, if I got
That's
that correct.
That's right. And then I'm going to start a whole section of artwork, because I've
Awesome.
seen some of the most outrageously magnificent artwork
That's
come through.
amazing.
And I
That's
want to
amazing.
support the young artists too.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And you can also just keep updated. I know you have like Instagram and all that. If you have anything going on, events, I'm sure they're on your website. So if anybody wants to meet Amelia at any conventions, since they're starting to open up again after this whole COVID thing that's going on, definitely check out her site, go and meet Amelia. I know I want to be one of the people that meet you eventually, and I hope it happens sooner than later.
Thank you. And
Absolutely.
in the interim, before I leave for Europe this
Mhm.
summer, people can hit me up for signed photographs.
Okay.
Because if you can't make it to a con and you want to have a signed picture, just email me and let me know, or hit me up on Facebook, and I'll get one out to you before I leave.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. I thank you so much, Amelia. And I'll be in touch via email, and we'll work on getting you my book, Christ Defeats Cancer, because I know you said you wanted a copy. So we'll work on getting that
Can't
out
wait
to
to
you.
see it. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Yep.
much.
You have a great rest of your night, Amelia.
Thank you.
All
Bless
right.
you.
Thank
And
you.
I loved every
Same to
minute
you.
of this.
I agree. I had a blast. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye.